Commander Jake Harrison stood at the main screen of Watchpoint Alpha, watching another set of strange signals come through the darkness of space. The Deep Space Monitoring Station floated quietly at the edge of human territory, far from Earth and even farther from the nearest colony. For 3 years now, Jake and his team had been listening to voices from the void. Alien voices speaking in languages no human had ever heard before. "Commander, we're getting more of those encrypted bursts," said Lieutenant Chris Thompson from his position at the communications desk. The young officer had been working the night shift for months, slowly learning to recognize the patterns in the alien transmissions. Same frequency bands as before, but the intensity is increasing. Jake nodded and walked over to where Dr. Lisa Matthews sat, hunched over her translation computer. The xenolinguist had been working around the clock for weeks, trying to make sense of the alien communications. Her desk was covered with printed sheets of symbol patterns, frequency analyses, and mathematical equations that hurt Jake's head just to look at. "Any luck with the translation, Lisa?" Jake asked, placing a hand on the back of her chair. Lisa looked up, her eyes red from staring at screens for too long. "I'm making progress, but it's slow. These aren't just random signals, Jake. They're organized military-style communications. And there are 2 distinct groups using completely different languages and technology." She turned back to her screen and pointed to a series of wave patterns. "This group here, I'm calling them the Zephyrians, based on a word that keeps appearing in their signals. They use very precise mathematical communication patterns. Everything is orderly, structured. Their technology seems to be based on advanced electronics and energy manipulation." Lisa switched to another screen showing different wave patterns. "This other group is completely different. I'm calling them the Nexari Collective. Their communications are more organic, flowing. They seem to use some kind of biological technology, maybe genetic engineering. The way they talk to each other is more like a hive mind than individual conversations." Jake studied the screens, trying to understand what he was seeing. "And they're fighting each other?" "Oh yes," Lisa said, her voice becoming more serious. "From what I can tell, they've been at war for decades, maybe longer. The battle reports I've decoded talk about destroyed star systems, fleets with millions of ships, weapons that can crack planets in half. This isn't just a small border conflict, Jake. This is total war on a scale we can barely imagine." The thought sent a chill down Jake's spine. Earth's entire space navy consisted of maybe a few 100 ships, and most of those were exploration vessels or cargo haulers. The idea of fleets with millions of warships was beyond anything humanity had ever conceived. "How far away are they?" Jake asked. Lisa pulled up a star chart on her main screen. "Based on signal delay and triangulation from our other monitoring stations, I estimate the main battle zones are about 200 light-years from Earth. The signals we're picking up are probably from battles that happened months or even years ago." Jake felt a small sense of relief. 200 light-years was a comfortable distance. Even if these aliens had faster-than-light travel, it would take them considerable time to reach human space. And from what Lisa was describing, they were too busy fighting each other to worry about exploring in humanity's direction. "Have you sent your reports to Earth Command?" Jake asked. "Every week, just like you ordered," Lisa replied. "But I don't think they're taking it seriously. Response I got from Director Paul Carter basically said to keep monitoring and avoid any contact. Earth's official position is that this is not our fight." Jake had received similar orders from General Amy Rodriguez, the head of Earth's military forces. The message had been clear: observe, record, but do not interfere. Humanity would continue its slow expansion into uninhabited star systems, carefully avoiding any contact with alien civilizations. From a strategic standpoint, Jake understood the logic. Why get involved in someone else's war when you could let them exhaust each other and then move into the empty space they left behind? It was cold, but it was practical. But something about the whole situation made Jake uncomfortable. It had spent his entire career in space, first as a pilot, then as a ship commander, and finally as the head of humanity's most remote monitoring station. He had learned to trust his instincts, and his instincts were telling him that ignoring this war might not be as safe as Earth Command believed. Lisa, show me the latest intelligence on their weapon capabilities, Jake said. Lisa's fingers flew over her keyboard, bringing up a series of decoded battle reports. From what I can understand, both sides have weapons that make our nuclear arsenal look like firecrackers. Zephyrians have something they call starbreakers, which seem to be weapons that can destabilize the nuclear fusion in stars. The Nexari have world seeds, which appear to be biological weapons that can consume entire planets and convert the matter into more ships and soldiers. Jake stared at the screen in horror. They can destroy stars? Apparently, identified. At least 3 star systems that have gone dark during the time we've been monitoring them. Complete radio silence where there used to be active civilizations. The implications were staggering. If either of these alien factions decided that humanity was a threat, they could wipe out Earth's entire civilization without even sending a single ship to the solar system. They could just make the sun explode. There's something else, Lisa continued. I've been tracking the movement of their fleets based on the battle reports. Both sides are expanding their war into new territories. The neutral zone that used to exist between them is shrinking. She highlighted an area on the star chart. This region here used to be empty space, what they called the dead zone. Now both sides are fighting over it. They're pushing deeper, into unexplored space, getting closer to the galactic rim where we are. Jake studied the chart. The war zone was definitely expanding, but it was still a long way from human space. How long before they reach our area? At their current rate of expansion, maybe 50 to 100 years. But that's assuming they maintain their current speed and don't develop faster ships or new exploration techniques. 50 years seemed like a long time, but Jake knew how quickly things could change in space. New technology, new discoveries, new threats could emerge overnight. And if these aliens were as advanced as Lisa's report suggested, they might develop ways to travel faster than anyone expected. Keep monitoring, Jake ordered. Start preparing more detailed reports for Earth Command. I want them to understand exactly what we're dealing with out here. Lisa nodded and turned back to her screens. I'll compile everything we have and send it in the next data burst to Earth. Jake walked back to the main observation deck, looking out at the stars. Somewhere out there in the darkness between the distant suns, a war was raging that could reshape the entire galaxy. Civilizations were being destroyed, entire species were being wiped out, and weapons of unimaginable power were being used to settle disputes that had started before humans had. Even developed writing, and Earth's response was to ignore it all and hope it would go away. Jake had been a military officer long enough to know that threats rarely disappeared just because you ignored them. Usually they grew stronger and more dangerous while you weren't paying attention. The smart thing to do was to study them, understand them, prepare for the day when they might become your problem. But his orders were clear. Observe and report. But do not interfere. Earth's leaders had decided that humanity would remain neutral in this cosmic conflict, focusing on their own expansion and development while the aliens destroyed each other. Jake hoped they were right. But deep in his heart, he suspected that this war would eventually become humanity's problem, whether they wanted it to or not. The universe had a way of forcing choices on people who tried to remain neutral for too long. As he watched the stars, Jake made a quiet decision. He would follow his orders and avoid contact with the warring aliens. But he would also make sure that humanity was as prepared as possible for the day when neutrality was no longer an option. 6 months after Jake Harrison's first warnings about the alien war, everything changed. Lieutenant Chris Thompson was working his usual night shift at Watchpoint Alpha when the sensors started screaming. The young officer had been monitoring the same frequency bands for months, but he had never seen readings like these before. Commander Harrison to the bridge immediately. Chris called over the station's communication system. His voice was tight with worry. We have multiple contacts approaching our sector. Jake rushed to the bridge, still pulling on his uniform jacket. When he saw the sensor display, his blood ran cold. 3 ships were limping through space toward the outer edge of human territory. They were badly damaged, trailing debris in atmosphere, but they were definitely alien in design. Zephyrian ships, said Dr. Lisa Matthews, who had been called to the bridge along with Jake. She was studying the energy signatures on her portable scanner. But they're not fighting anyone. They're running. The lead ship was barely holding together. Its hull was cracked in multiple places, and one of its main engines was completely destroyed. The other two ships were in slightly better condition, but they were clearly escorting the damaged vessel rather than preparing for battle. Are they going to enter human space? Jake asked. Chris checked his calculations. At their current heading, they'll cross into the Centauri system within 12 hours. That's where we have the mining colony on Centauri Prime. Jake felt his stomach tighten. The Centauri system was home to nearly 50,000 human colonists. If these alien ships were carrying weapons capable of destroying planets, the colony wouldn't stand a chance. Send a message to Admiral Kate Sullivan immediately, Jake ordered. Tell her we have alien ships approaching human territory, and get me a direct line to Earth Command. While Chris worked to establish communications with Earth, Jake studied the damaged alien ships. They didn't look like they were preparing for an attack. They looked like refugees, survivors of some terrible battle. But appearances could be deceiving, especially when dealing with alien technology. Dr. Ben Parker, the station's strategic analyst, arrived on the bridge carrying a stack of reports. I've been analyzing the battle communications from the war zone, he said breathlessly. Something major happened 3 days ago. Both the Zephyrians and the Nexari launched massive attacks against each other. The battles were bigger than anything we've seen before. Lisa looked up from her scanner. That would explain why these ships are running. They're probably survivors from one of those battles. The communication system crackled to life. Watchpoint Alpha, this is Admiral Sullivan. I've received your message about the approaching alien vessels. What's their current status? Jake activated the communication link. Admiral, we have 3 Zephyrian ships approaching the Centauri system. They appear to be damaged and fleeing from something. Number. Signs of hostile intent so far, but we don't know their capabilities. Understood. I'm dispatching Captain Roy Mitchell with a patrol squadron to intercept them before they reach the colony. Do not attempt to make contact. Observe and report only. Yes, Admiral. After the communication ended, Jake turned to his team. Ben, I need you to analyze everything we know about Zephyrian technology. If they decide to fight, what are we dealing with? Ben nodded and began pulling up files on his computer. From what we've observed, Zephyrian ships use directed energy weapons and advanced shielding, but these ships are damaged. Their shields might not be at full strength. It's assuming they follow the same rules we do, Lisa added. For all we know, damaged Zephyrian ships might be programmed to self-destruct rather than be captured. The next few hours passed slowly. Jake and his team monitored the alien ships as they continued their journey toward human space.
The ships
maintained their course and speed, showing no signs of changing direction or preparing weapons. Then the communication system activated again. This time, it was Captain Mitchell, calling from his patrol ship. Watchpoint Alpha. This is Captain Mitchell. I'm approaching the alien vessels now. They're not responding to our hail attempts, but they're not taking any hostile actions either. Requesting permission to escort them away from the colony. Jake looked at his team. This was exactly the kind of situation Earth Command had hoped to avoid. First contact with alien technology, right on the doorstep of a human colony. Captain, this is Commander Harrison. Be extremely careful. We don't know how they'll react to being approached by human ships. Understood, Commander. For the next hour, Jake listened to Captain Mitchell's reports as the human patrol squadron carefully approached the alien ships. The Zephyrians continued to ignore all communication attempts, but they also didn't take any hostile actions. Then disaster struck. Watchpoint Alpha, this is Captain Mitchell. The lead alien ship just lost power completely, drifting toward the colony's asteroid mining field. If it crashes, the explosion could damage the mining equipment. Jake closed his eyes. This was getting worse by the minute. Can you use a tractor beam to pull it away? Negative. The ship is too large, and we don't know how their hull will react to our tractor beams. It might cause a hull breach. Captain, you need to make contact with them somehow? If they're refugees, they might need help. There was a long pause before Captain Mitchell responded. Commander, I'm going to try something. I'm going to dock with their ship and attempt to board. Captain, you don't have authorization for that. Kind of contact? I know, Commander. But if I don't do something, that ship is going to crash into the mining field in 30 minutes. The explosion could kill thousands of colonists. Jake looked around the bridge at his team. They were all watching him, waiting for his decision. Earth Command had been clear about avoiding contact with aliens, but they had never anticipated a situation like this. Do it, Captain, but be careful. What happened next changed everything for humanity. Captain Mitchell successfully docked with the alien ship and made contact with the surviving Zephyrians. But what he learned from them was terrifying. Watchpoint. Alpha, this is Captain Mitchell. I'm aboard the alien ship. You need to hear this. Jake activated the recording system. The Zephyrians call themselves the Technological Collective. They've been at war with the Nexari for over 200 years, but that's not the worst part. Commander, they're not just fighting over territory. They're fighting over the right to exist. What do you mean? Zephyrians want to convert all biological life into technological forms? They believe organic life is inferior and must be upgraded. The Nexari want to absorb all technological life into their biological collective. They think machines are corrupting the natural order. Jake felt his blood run cold. Captain, are you saying both sides want to destroy anything that doesn't fit their vision? That's exactly what I'm saying, Commander. And here's the really bad news. Both sides have been expanding their war into neutral space. They've been destroying any civilization they encounter that refuses to join them. What about us? What about humanity? Commander, the Zephyrian I'm talking to says that humans are exactly the kind of species both sides would target. We're too advanced to ignore. But we're not aligned with either faction, or what they call a contamination risk. Jake sat down heavily in his command chair. Everything Earth Command had assumed about the alien war was wrong. This wasn't just a conflict between two civilizations. It was a war between two different philosophies of existence, and neither side tolerated neutrality. Captain, get back to your ship immediately. I need to report this to Earth Command right away. Already on my way, Commander. More thing. The Zephyrian told me that both sides have been tracking our communications. They know we exist, and they know where we are. Jake's hands began to shake. How long do we have? The Zephyrian estimates that scout ships from both factions will reach the edge of human space within 6 months. They're coming to evaluate whether humanity should be converted, absorbed, or destroyed. After Captain Mitchell returned to his ship and escorted the alien refugees away from the colony, Jake sat alone on the bridge of Watchpoint Alpha. The comfortable distance that had protected humanity for 3 years was gone. The war was no longer someone else's problem. It was coming to Earth's front door, and humanity had 6 months to decide how to respond. 3 weeks after Captain Roy Mitchell's encounter with the Zephyrian refugees, the inevitable happened. Captain Nina Brooks was commanding the human exploration vessel Discovery on a routine survey mission near the outer colonies when her sensors detected something that made her heart stop. Captain, I'm reading multiple ships approaching from 2 different directions, reported her sensor officer, Lieutenant Danny Garcia. They're not human designs. Nina rushed to the bridge and looked. At the tactical display, 2 groups of ships were converging on the Discovery's position. One group showed the angular, metallic designs she recognized from the Zephyrian refugees. The other group displayed organic, flowing shapes that could only be Nexori vessels. How many ships? 12 Zephyrian vessels and 15 Nexari ships, Danny replied. They were fighting each other until they detected us. Now they're both heading straight for us. Nina felt her stomach drop. This was exactly what Earth Command had feared. Both alien factions had found humanity, and they were no longer distracted by their war with each other. Send a distress signal. To Earth Command immediately, Nina ordered, tell them we have first contact with both alien factions. The communications officer, Ensign Kelly Roberts, worked frantically at her station. Signal sent, Captain, but it will take hours to reach Earth. Time until the aliens reach us. 17 minutes, Danny said grimly. Nina had commanded exploration ships for 15 years, but she had never faced anything like this. Earth's first contact protocols were designed for peaceful meetings with single alien species. not hostile. Encounters with two warring factions at once. "Captain, I'm receiving a transmission from the Zephyrian ships," Kelly reported. "Put it on screen." The main display flickered to life, showing the bridge of a Zephyrian vessel. The alien commander was tall and thin, with metallic implants covering most of its body. When it spoke, its voice was cold and mechanical. "Human. Vessel, I am Command Unit Zeta 7 of the Technological Collective. You will surrender your ship for evaluation and conversion. Your biological forms are inefficient and must be upgraded to serve the collective." Before Nina could respond, another transmission came through. This one showed the interior of a Nexari ship, which looked more like the inside of a living creature than a spacecraft. The Nexari commander was a grotesque fusion of organic and mechanical parts, with multiple eyes and appendages. "Humans, I am Synthesis, Node Capanine of the Nexari Collective. Your primitive technology corrupts the natural order. You will be absorbed into our biological matrix to achieve perfect unity." Nina looked at her crew. They were all young officers who had signed up for exploration missions, not first contact with hostile aliens. She could see the fear in their eyes, but also determination. They were human, and humans didn't surrender easily. "This is Captain Nina Brooks of the Earth Vessel Discovery," she said, opening a channel to both alien ships. "We are peaceful explorers from the planet Earth. We have no quarrel with either of your civilizations." The Zephyrian commander's response was immediate, irrelevant. "All biological life must be converted to technological forms. Your resistance is inefficient." The Nexari commander spoke at the same time. "Meaningless. All artificial constructs must be absorbed into biological unity. Your metal ships are an abomination." Nina realized that both aliens were completely inflexible in their beliefs. The Zephyrians wanted to turn all life into machines, while the Nexari wanted to turn all machines into living creatures. Neither side would accept humanity's desire to remain independent. "Captain, both groups are powering up their weapons," Danny reported, "but they're not targeting us. They're targeting each other." Nina watched in amazement as the two alien fleets began fighting again, apparently forgetting about the human ship in their hatred for each other. Energy beams and biological projectiles filled the space around the Discovery as the ancient enemies resumed their war. "Can we escape while they're distracted?" Nina asked. "Negative," her navigation officer replied. "They've positioned themselves to block all our escape routes. We're trapped in the middle of their battle." For the next hour, Nina and her crew watched the alien battle rage around them. Zephyrian ships fired precise energy weapons that could slice through armor like paper. The Nexari ships launched living projectiles that could eat through metal holes and convert the material into more weapons. But something strange was happening. Both sides kept sending small groups of ships to scan the Discovery even while they were fighting each other. They were studying human technology, trying to understand how it worked. "Captain, I'm detecting scanning beams from both fleets," reported Dr. Sarah Kim, the ship's science officer. "They're analyzing our hull composition, our engine design, everything."
"Hi."
"Why would they do that while they're fighting?" Nina asked. Dr. Kim studied her readings. "I think they're trying to figure out which faction we belong to. Our technology doesn't match either of their designs, so they're confused." Nina had an idea. "Kelly, can you patch me through to both fleet commanders at the same time?" "Yes, Captain. You're connected." Nina took a deep breath. "Zeta 7 and Kappa 9. I have a proposal. Both want to convert humanity to your way of thinking, but you can't do that while you're fighting each other. Why don't you settle your differences first, then deal with us?" Both alien commanders appeared on the screen at the same time. For a moment, they looked at each other with pure hatred. "The biological corruption must be eliminated first," the Zephyrian said. "The technological plague must be cleansed," the Nexari replied. Nina saw her chance. "Then fight your war somewhere else. We're just explorers. We're not a threat to either of you." The Zephyrian commander's mechanical voice was cold. "Incorrect. No species combines biological and technological elements without proper integration. You are a contamination that threatens both pure forms." The Nexari commander's organic voice was equally hostile. "Agreed. Your hybrid nature violates the natural order. You must be eliminated to prevent further corruption. Nina felt her heart sink. For the first time in their conversation, both alien factions agreed on something. They both wanted humanity destroyed. "Captain, more ships are arriving," Danny reported. "Urgently. A lot more ships." The tactical display showed dozens of new contacts appearing around the Discovery. Ships from both alien factions were joining the battle, drawn by the discovery of humanity. "This is going to become a major engagement," Dr. Kim observed. "Both sides are committing serious resources to this fight." Nina realized that the Discovery had become the center of what might be the largest battle in the alien war. Both factions were determined to capture or destroy the human ship, and neither was willing to let the other succeed. "Kelly, prepare a data burst to Earth Command," Nina ordered. "Include everything we've learned about both alien factions. If we don't make it out of this, at least Earth will know what they're dealing with." "Data burst prepared, Captain." "Send." As the alien battle intensified around them, Nina made a decision that would change the course of human history. Instead of trying to hide or run, she began transmitting on all frequencies, sending messages to both alien fleets. "This is Captain Nina Brooks of Earth. I'm transmitting the coordinates of our home system and our colony worlds. If you want to settle the question of humanity's future, come and find us. But know this, we won't be converted, and we won't be absorbed. We'll fight for our right to exist as we choose." Her crew stared at her in shock. "Captain, you just told them how to find Earth," Kelly said. "Yes, I did," Nina replied, "because they were going to find us anyway. At least now we control the timing. Earth Command will have time to prepare for what's coming." The alien battle raged for 6 more hours. When it finally ended, both fleets had suffered heavy casualties, but neither side had achieved victory. The Discovery had somehow survived in the middle of the chaos, protected by the aliens' focus on each other, as the surviving alien ships retreated to regroup. Nina knew that everything had changed. Humanity was no longer hidden. Both alien factions now knew exactly where to find Earth, and they would be coming with everything they had. The war that had raged in distant space for centuries was about to arrive at humanity's front door. When Captain Nina Brooks' message reached Earth Command, Director Paul Carter called the largest emergency meeting in human history. Military leaders, scientists, and government officials gathered in the underground command center in Geneva. The mood was grim as Admiral Kate Sullivan presented the intelligence reports from Watchpoint Alpha and the Discovery. "Both alien factions are preparing fleets to attack Earth," Admiral Sullivan announced to the crowded room. "Our estimates suggest they'll arrive within 8 weeks. We're facing the combined military might of 2 civilizations that have been perfecting warfare for over 2 centuries. General Amy Rodriguez stood up from her seat. "How many ships are we talking about?" Dr. Lisa Matthews, who had been brought to Earth to brief the leadership, looked at her notes. "Based on our intercepted communications, the Zephyrians are assembling a fleet of approximately 8,000 ships. The Nexari are gathering a similar number. Combined, we're looking at 16,000 enemy vessels." The room fell silent. Earth's entire space navy consisted of 300 ships, and most of those were cargo vessels or small patrol boats. The aliens outnumbered humanity 50-1. "What about their weapon capabilities?" asked Dr. Helen Garcia, Earth's leading expert on alien technology. "Each alien ship carries weapons that could destroy one of our largest cities," Lisa replied. "Their smallest fighters have more firepower than our biggest battleships." Director Carter rubbed his temples. "So we're completely outmatched." "In conventional warfare, yes," said General Rodriguez. "But I've been studying the reports from our observers, and I think we might have an advantage they don't expect." She activated a holographic display showing battle footage from the alien war. "Look at how they fight. Both sides use massive fleets in direct confrontation. They line up their ships and blast away at each other until one side retreats or gets destroyed. It's like warfare from hundreds of years ago, just with bigger weapons." Admiral Sullivan nodded. "They've been fighting the same way for so long that they've forgotten there are other approaches to warfare." "What are you suggesting?" Carter asked. General Rodriguez smiled grimly. "We don't fight them the way they expect. We use guerrilla tactics, hit-and-run attacks, psychological warfare. We make them fight our kind of war instead of theirs. Over the next few weeks, Earth transformed into a military fortress. Captain Roy Mitchell, now promoted to Commodore, led the effort to retrofit human ships with new weapons and defenses. Dr. Steve Thompson, Earth's best engineer, worked around the clock to reverse engineer alien technology from the wreckage left behind by the battle near Discovery. The breakthrough came when Dr. Thompson's team discovered that both alien factions used predictable energy frequencies for their shields and communications. Human ships could be modified to mimic these frequencies, making them appear to be either Zephyrian or Nexori vessels. "We can't match their firepower," Dr. Thompson explained to the assembled commanders, "but we can confuse them. If our ships look like they're ships on sensors, we can get close enough to cause real damage." Colonel Mary Johnson, who commanded Earth's Special Forces, had been studying the alien psychology reports. Both factions are absolutely convinced that their way of thinking is the only correct one. Can't imagine that anyone would choose to remain independent. We can use that against them. The first test of human tactics came sooner than expected. A combined Zephyrian Nexari scout fleet arrived at the edge of the solar system 2 weeks ahead of schedule. The aliens had apparently decided to work together long enough to eliminate the human threat. Commodore Mitchell commanded the defense fleet from his flagship, the newly retrofitted Defiance. His ships were outnumbered 20-1, but they had something the aliens didn't expect: unpredictability. "All ships, activate the masking systems," Mitchell ordered. "Make us look like a Nexari patrol to the Zephyrians, and like a Zephyrian patrol to the Nexari." The modified human ships began broadcasting false energy signatures. To the Zephyrian sensors, they appeared to be Nexari vessels. To the Nexari sensors, they looked like Zephyrian ships. The alien fleet immediately broke apart as both factions began attacking what they thought were enemy ships. The humans had turned the alien alliance against itself without firing a single shot. "Target their command ships while they're distracted," Mitchell ordered. "Hit them hard and fast, then get out before they realize what happened." Captain Nina Brooks, now commanding a squadron of modified fighters, led the attack on the Zephyrian command vessel. Her ships appeared to be Nexari fighters on the alien sensors. So the Zephyrians didn't raise their shields until it was too late. "Direct hit on their bridge," reported her weapons officer. "The command ship is drifting." Meanwhile, another human squadron attacked the Nexari command vessel, appearing to be Zephyrian attackers. The confusion was complete as both alien factions found themselves fighting enemies that seemed to be everywhere and nowhere. But the humans weren't finished. Colonel Johnson had prepared a special surprise for the aliens. Hidden throughout the outer solar system were small probe ships carrying a very unusual cargo: recordings of human music, art, and literature. "Activate the cultural bombardment," Johnson ordered. The probes began broadcasting human creativity directly into the alien command networks. The Zephyrians, who believed all biological life was inferior, suddenly found themselves exposed to human music that was more complex and beautiful than anything their logical minds had created. The Nexari, who thought all technology was corrupting, discovered human digital art that combined technology and biology in ways they had never imagined. The psychological impact was devastating. For the first time in centuries, both alien factions encountered something that challenged their basic beliefs about the universe. They couldn't categorize humans as purely biological or purely technological because humans were both. "The aliens are retreating," reported the sensor officer on Mitchell's ship. "Both fleets are falling back beyond the outer planets." But Mitchell knew this was just the beginning. Don't celebrate yet. This was just a scout fleet. The main alien armadas are still coming, and now they know we're not going to be easy targets. The retreat gave Earth precious time to prepare. Dr. Thompson's engineers worked to mass-produce the masking technology, while Colonel Johnson trained more special forces teams in unconventional warfare tactics. Captain Brooks led raids on alien supply lines, using captured alien equipment to make her ships look even more convincing. Her squadron became known as the Ghost Fleet, as they could appear to be either faction ships whenever it was convenient. The aliens tried to adapt to human tactics, but they were hampered by their rigid thinking. The Zephyrians couldn't understand why anyone would choose inefficient biological forms when technological perfection was available. The Nexari couldn't comprehend why anyone would contaminate pure biological life with artificial technology. They keep trying to convert us instead of just destroying us, observed Dr. Garcia during one of the strategy meetings. It's like they can't accept that we want to stay the way we are. General Rodriguez nodded. That's their weakness. They're so convinced that their way is the only way that they can't imagine we might have found a third option. As reports came in from deep space monitors, it became clear that both alien factions were preparing for a final assault on Earth. The main battle fleets were gathering at the edge of the solar system, larger than anything humanity had ever faced. But humans had learned something important during the skirmishes with the scout fleets. The aliens' greatest strength, their absolute certainty about their beliefs, was also their greatest weakness. They couldn't adapt to an enemy that refused to fit into their categories. Let them come, Mitchell said, as he studied the tactical reports. We've shown them that humans don't fight the way they expect, and we're going to show them that we don't give up the way they expect either. The stage was set for the largest space battle in galactic history, but it wouldn't be the kind of battle the aliens were prepared to fight. The final battle began on a Tuesday morning when long-range sensors detected the largest fleet in galactic history approaching Earth. Admiral Kate Sullivan stood in the command center deep beneath Geneva, watching as her screens filled with enemy contacts. 16,000 alien ships had formed a massive armada that stretched across half the solar system. Both factions have put aside their differences, reported Dr. Lisa Matthews, studying the communication intercepts, sharing, targeting data, and coordinating their attacks. For the first time in centuries, the Zephyrians and Nexari are working together. General Amy Rodriguez looked at the tactical display with grim determination. How long until they reach Earth?
6
hours, replied the sensor operator. They're coming straight for us. No deceptions or tricks. They plan to overwhelm us with pure firepower. Commodore Roy Mitchell was already aboard his flagship, preparing humanity's small fleet for what everyone knew would be the final battle. 300 human ships against 16,000 alien vessels. The mathematics were simple and terrifying, but Captain Nina Brooks spent the last month preparing a surprise that might change those odds. Her engineering teams had been working around the clock to plant special devices throughout the alien supply networks that both factions had established in the outer solar system. Nina, are your people ready? Admiral Sullivan asked over the communication link. Ready as we'll ever be, Nina replied from the bridge of her command ship. The signal beacons are in place throughout their supply lines. When we activate them, their communication networks should become very confused. Dr. Steve Thompson had designed the beacons based on his study of captured alien technology. Each device was programmed to broadcast false information directly into the quantum communication networks that both alien factions used to coordinate their fleets. Remember, Thompson had explained during the final briefing, both alien species rely completely on their communication systems. The Zephyrians use quantum entanglement to coordinate their logical battle plans. Nexari use biological neural networks to maintain their hive mind consciousness. If we can disrupt both systems at the same time, their fleets will lose coordination. Colonel Mary Johnson was positioned with her Special Forces teams on several asteroids throughout the solar system. Her job was to ensure the beacons stayed active, even if the aliens discovered them. All teams are in position, Johnson reported. We're ready to protect the beacons. Director Paul Carter had evacuated to a secure bunker on Luna, along with most of Earth's government. From there, he watched as humanity prepared to fight for its survival. Admiral Sullivan, Carter said over the secure communication link, you have full authority to do whatever is necessary to protect Earth. The alien armada reached the orbit of Jupiter and began deploying into battle formation. Ships arranged themselves in precise geometric patterns, while the Nexari vessels formed organic, flowing shapes that looked like massive living creatures swimming through space. They're beautiful and terrifying at the same time, observed Dr. Helen Garcia, who was monitoring the alien formations from Earth. Both factions have turned warfare into an art form. Commodore Mitchell positioned his small fleet near Mars, using the planet's magnetic field to mask their energy signatures. All ships prepare for Operation Chaos. He ordered Operation Chaos was humanity's desperate plan to survive the impossible odds. Instead of fighting a conventional space battle, the human fleet would create maximum confusion and turn the alien alliance against itself? Activate the masking systems, Mitchell commanded. I want half our ships to look like Zephyrian vessels and half to look like Nexari ships. Make it look like both factions are betraying each other. It's the human ships. Change their energy signatures. Nina Brooks prepared to activate the signal beacons. Thompson, are you sure this will work? Honestly, no, Thompson replied from his position in the engineering section. We're basically trying to hack the communication systems of two civilizations that are thousands of years more advanced than us, but it's our only chance. The alien armada reached the asteroid belt and began its final approach toward Earth. Sensors showed massive energy buildups as both factions prepared to fire their planet-killing weapons. Now, Admiral Sullivan ordered. Nina activated the signal beacons. For 17 minutes, the largest space battle in galactic history raged in complete chaos. The quantum communication networks that both alien factions depended on suddenly filled with false information. Zephyrian ships received targeting data that identified other Zephyrian ships as Nexari enemies. Nexari vessels found their biological, neural networks convinced that their own allies were actually Zephyrian attackers. The careful coordination between the two factions collapsed instantly. Ships that had been flying in formation suddenly began firing on each other. The Zephyrian commanders, who prided themselves on logical thinking, found their computers telling them that their Nexari allies had betrayed them. The Nexari hive mind, which had never experienced deception before, was convinced that the Zephyrians had launched a sneak attack. It's working, Mitchell reported as he watched the alien fleets tear each other apart. They're completely focused on fighting each other. They've forgotten about us. But the human fleet wasn't just watching. While the aliens were distracted, Mitchell's ships used their masking technology to appear as reinforcements for whichever side was losing in each local battle. They would arrive looking like Zephyrian ships to help the Zephyrians, then switch their signatures to look like Nexari vessels and help the Nexari. Captain Brooks led her squadron through the chaos, peering wherever she could cause the most confusion. Her ships would arrive at a battle looking like one faction, help them win, then reveal themselves as the other faction just long enough to make both sides think they had been betrayed. This is insane, her weapons officer commented as they switched. From appearing Zephyrian to appearing Nexari for the 5th time in 10 minutes. That's the point, Brooks replied. We're not trying to win through superior firepower. We're winning by being so unpredictable that they can't figure out what's happening. Psychological impact on the aliens was devastating. Both factions had fought each other for centuries using predictable patterns and logical strategies. Neither had ever encountered an enemy that constantly changed its apparent identity and loyalties. The Zephyrian fleet commanders, who relied on logical analysis, found their computers unable to process the contradictory information they were receiving. Some Zephyrian ships began shutting down their weapon systems because their targeting computers couldn't determine who was friend and who was enemy. The Nexari hive mind, which had always functioned as a unified consciousness, began breaking apart as different groups received conflicting information. Some Nexari ships started attacking their own allies because they couldn't maintain a coherent understanding of the battle. After 17 minutes of chaos, both alien fleets began retreating toward the outer solar system. They had suffered massive casualties, not from human weapons, but from their own confused attacks on each other. Admiral, the aliens are pulling back, reported the sensor operator in the command center. Both fleets? Sullivan asked. Yes, Admiral. They're regrouping beyond Jupiter's orbit. Ambassador Frank Lewis, who had been standing by for potential surrender negotiations, found himself in the strange position of receiving communication requests from both alien factions at the same time. Admiral, both the Zephyrians and Nexari want to talk, Lewis reported. They're asking for a ceasefire. What followed was the strangest diplomatic negotiation in galactic history. Both alien factions, exhausted by centuries of war and confused by their encounter with humanity, found themselves sitting at the same negotiating table for the first time. The Zephyrian representative, Command Unit Alpha Prime, spoke first. Humans, your tactical unpredictability has demonstrated the limitations of pure logical warfare. We require clarification of your strategic objectives. The Nexary representative synthesis node beta core added, your hybrid nature challenges. Our understanding of natural order, you must comprehend your existence before proceeding. Ambassador Lewis looked at both aliens and realized that humanity had accidentally accomplished something neither faction had managed in centuries of warfare. They had forced both sides to question their basic assumptions about how conflicts should be fought. Our objective is simple, Lewis said. We want to exist as we choose, without interference from either of your civilizations. We don't want to be converted to machines, and we don't want to be absorbed into a collective consciousness. We want to remain human. The negotiation lasted for weeks, but the outcome changed the galaxy forever. Both alien factions, recognizing that they couldn't defeat an enemy they couldn't understand, agreed to a three-way treaty. The war that had raged for centuries finally ended. Earth became the neutral ground for future galactic disputes, with humanity serving as mediators between different civilizations. The price of peace was eternal vigilance. Humans would monitor the galaxy to prevent future wars from spiraling out of control. Years later, Commander Jake Harrison wrote in his final report, "We thought we could remain neutral observers of someone else's war.